All right. So Jen, were we lying about the incredible power of that team we just heard and the work that they're supporting, leading and deepening within Holy Spirit Catholic School Division?
Not in the least. To see the idea, like we had talked about for years, Kurtis, even when I was working at a district level, of what if, right? Imagine if district leadership teams came together and talked about schools in this way. Imagine if. And to see it come to fruition, and the passion that they have for, I mean, it's the words they use, right? Mindset, right? It's not an event. Collaborative response is all the time.
Yeah.
Right? The understanding that they can articulate because they're living the process, like they said, elbow to elbow with their schools, is fantastic.
Yeah. And you know what? They are, when we talk about modeling, they are the ultimate example of a team who models for their schools, and they seriously have taken every aspect of collaborative response, moved it into their leadership teams at that senior district level, and they are modeling and living collaborative response at that level. And it also allows them to have more powerful conversations with their schools, because they can say, yeah, we know how that is. We understand
struggle with that
because
too.
we struggle with it too. Yeah.
You know, we get the advantage of having these conversations with many different school leaders, district leaders, and how many times have we now started to hear, when you ask that question, what would you tell your past self that you know now? I think the 3 words of trust the process has come up
over
multiple
and
times,
again,
which I think is something that we can say, but it's hard for people to understand that the process really does matter for the work and the impact that you hope to have.
Well,
you can't skip the process
and that
or fast forward it.
And yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is around that time frame, that it's not a matter of, you will have this done in a year,
checklist,
or we'll have this done in 3 years. But really, it is understanding that it is how we do the work that we do.
Not an event.
Yeah, not an event at all. Yeah.
Again, like I said, I've heard you talk about that go slow to go fast as part of the trust the process. But I mean, I have my own experience, but to hear someone else articulate their experience around the why, right? It can't be on a timeline, because you need to let things unfold, and that the quality of what you're going to get in that is going to be greater than if you had set these artificial deadlines that these things had to be done. That
Absolutely.
The growth is in the conversations and the relationships and the connections that are being made.
Well, and the one other thing that I really love about the engagement and learning that we've done through Holy Spirit School Division, or Catholic School Division, is using the process to truly bring their priorities alive within the district. That we have a systematic way that keeps, you heard Aaron talk about the cycle. We keep cycling around our priorities, but it's the priorities that we are hoping to see impact, that really we're utilizing collaborative response to see success in these particular priority areas. We often share that with schools, but it's hard to envision the idea of this is bigger than just a set of meetings. It's the mindset that you establish over time that helps you ensure success for your priorities, whether it's priorities at a school level or at that divisional level.
Well, and it is that a living process that allows them to see a realistic picture of what's happening in schools. Because, I mean, from having come from a perspective of a district personnel, and trying to get a sense of what's happening in schools by having them, share presentation. I mean, there's so many different ways that we've had that, peek into what's happening in schools. They fill out reports or they give presentations, But this process allows them to truly understand what is happening for each of their schools. And wow, how empowering, but also that alongside of that, it's not just checking in to see how things are going, but it's also that layer of support now. So now we understand where you're at. Now, how can we provide support to take you to the next
Crystal
step?
referred to it as a
Yeah.
dialogue. The schools aren't reporting out, but it's a
Yeah, it's
dialogue
beautiful.
that this is we all are working together to see success in our priorities.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Jen, I think we've reached the point in our program that we always turn to you to say, summarize. What do we take away
How
from
do you
this?
summarize that?
Yeah,
So I wrote down 3 things this time.
excellent.
One is the importance of modeling and living collaborative response at that district level, because it builds an integrity in the conversations that you're having with the schools that you're serving, as well as that understanding and empathy that we're there with you. We understand the struggle because we're struggling too, and maybe we can learn together.
Yeah.
Second thing I wrote down, again, we say it all the time, but that notion of trust the process, right? It cannot be said enough, but when we hear that coming from multiple leaders at the school level and at the district level, I know that you guys say it because that has been your experience, but to hear it reinforced again and again and again, and the reasons behind the why,
Yeah, that's
right?
really powerful, isn't it?
Yes. And then the third thing I wrote down was that collaborative response, the mindset is a systemic way to address priorities in a district. And so when you hear the conversations that they were having about, we're having the same structures of meetings that the schools are having about students at the district level with this leadership team at the superintendency kind of level. And then in each of our departments, we're having those same structures and processes. And then the processes that they're using to gather the data and evidence from the schools. And then talking about developing the continuum of supports from the district level and supporting schools. It all aligns with what they talk about as continuous improvement plans, which I was like, oh, that's the best way I've heard those described. Because it's not a 1-year plan or a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. Education is ongoing. And so collaborative response provides that mindset to continuously improve in addressing those priorities.
Absolutely. Well, Jen, it's been a pleasure to connect, to engage with another set of partners today. And as always, great to be able to engage in this conversation. For anyone that's watching on YouTube, go press that icon that you see in the bottom right to subscribe to hear further stories, insights, and thoughts from a number of leaders around collaborative response. If you're listening on the podcast, please go down, subscribe, leave a review. Love to hear your thoughts on this episode and others as we continue to put the pieces together.
Thanks so much for joining us.